Mr. President should call a meeting of all political parties. And all political parties, without any hesitation, without they do this, they do that, they do that. They should say what they think, because this will cross the borders of this government. This will concern the next, perhaps, decades. So the political parties must say what they think. I will answer very clearly. A jump attack is impossible. Secondly, the expenses, as they should be increased, must go to dual projects. If we can use them for the construction of roads and hospitals, we don't have any major problems with that. If we are building a hospital in Prešov today, I repeat, for the money of the Ministry of Defense. If the Ministry of Defense will help significantly with the construction of a hospital in Bratislava, if the hospital in Ružomberok is being reconstructed today and large projects are being built, we can use the resources from the Ministry of Defense to repair the infrastructure. That means bridges. We even know that it could go to the school infrastructure. So there will be a reasonable proposal, but if someone thinks that we will jump from 2% to 5% tomorrow, let them forget about it. It is impossible. The government of the Slovak Republic, with all the sanctions that have been imposed, is doing an internal analysis, whether these sanctions are harming or not harming the national and state interests of the Slovak Republic. That is why I welcome this proposal. In the end, the direction of the Slovak social democracy voted in the National Council of the Slovak Republic, and our MPs knew what they were doing, and I knew how the MPs would vote for the direction of the Slovak social democracy, and I consider it a strong tool, a political tool that we can use in the discussions in the European Council. I repeat, if there is a sanction that would harm us, I will never vote for it. If someone wants to come up with a proposal to stop the import of nuclear fuel to Slovakia from the Russian Federation, I simply cannot support that. I cannot support that because we can close 5 nuclear reactors. That is how it is. And anyone can say what they want, that we will import some fuel from somewhere. We will not import it. It takes years for us to put some foreign fuel into the reactors we have in Slovakia. So I repeat, if there are sanctions that will harm the national and state interests of Slovakia, we will block them. But there are also sanctions that we have nothing to do with, that simply have no effect at all. And the European Union relies on them a lot, because of some unity. So are we or are we not a member state of the European Union? We are. Of course, I am interested in being a constructive player in the European Union, but not in the interests of the Slovak Republic. If there is supposed to be some false solidarity expressed in favor of the interests of the Slovak Republic, I will never do that. I am too experienced not to see how the big states are doing. But everyone has, you know what, Slovakia, Ware, and other small countries, when it comes to their national and state interests. So, once again, this embassy, this inauguration, is an extraordinarily strong political instrument that we will be able to rely on in the policy I have just mentioned. If there are sanctions that will harm us, we will not vote for them. At the same price, as with the migration quotas, we had maybe 3 months when some prime ministers didn't want us to leave, but sometimes you have to fight. I think this is how our truth will be shown, as it was shown in the case of migration, where our migration policy is shown to be correct. We had the truth in the case of nuclear power plants in 2008, when it was forbidden to talk about it. But we went to the buildings of the 3rd and 4th blocks. We had the truth again, and we will have the truth even if there is a war in Ukraine, and our position will be shown to be correct at the end of the day. We made a promise at the celebrations of the St. Cyril's method last year that we will do everything to build a very strong castle with the crazy ideas coming from progressivists and liberals. And this castle should be in the form of a novelization of the Constitution, which is ready for qualification. It is in the second and third reading because it passed in the first reading. And if we look at the development of the National Council of the Slovak Republic, I can say that there is a historical chance to praise this historical novelization of the Constitution of the Slovak Republic because it leads to an important establishment, which we have already reached in the Constitution, which defines marriage as the only union of men and women. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a bit surprised how much effort the anti-government and liberal media are making to mislead the opposition members who are ready to vote for this novelization of the Constitution. I would like to ask the entire Slovak public, as well as the anti-government and liberal media, what is wrong with saying that there are only two views, men and women? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that against common sense? If you want someone to feel like a lamp or a chair or a helicopter or a dog, let them feel. But we will recognize in the Constitution of the Slovak Republic only two views, men and women. I would also like to ask what is wrong if we correct the question of adopting children in the Constitution of the Slovak Republic, exactly as it is in the law on families, where it is said that if children are adopted, they can only be adopted by spouses. And the marriage is defined in the Constitution of the Slovak Republic as the only union of men and women. What is wrong if we say that our schools can teach only what is written in the Constitution? If we have written in the Constitution that marriage is the only union of men and women, then they cannot teach something else in the official curriculum, that there can be other types of marriage, because this is in contradiction with the Constitution of the Slovak Republic. What is wrong if we define in the Constitution the equalization of men and women in marriage? And especially, and I consider this statement to be a breakthrough, what is wrong if we say that in cultural, ethical, and values questions, Slovak law has precedence over international law? I am very glad that we have adopted the definition of the superiority of domestic law over international law in this draft of the Constitution of the Slovak Republic, which has been in force for a long time. We had a similar formulation, but in the end we came to the conclusion that we will use the formulation that comes from this environment. I would even like to confirm that if a draft of the definition of mother and father, where the Christian democratic movement suggests that the mother is a woman and the father is a man, then I can imagine that this could be included in the Constitution of the Slovak Republic, because this is a real castle of progressivism and crazy ideas that come from liberal minds.